I was the only man for billions of kilometers in every direction. And I was surrounded by thousands of women who were not human. To understand how that happened, we need to go back a few days. My name is Lucas, I'm an engineer. The kind they call when something breaks far from witnesses. The contract was simple. 2 weeks. Emergency inspection. Fix what's needed. Log the rest. Disappear. The station sat on Orpheus 9, an ice moon so distant it barely deserved a name. Officially, it was a mothballed facility. Unofficially, it worked too well. The corridors were warm. The systems were precise. Too precise. I logged temperatures, pressure, power flow, and everywhere I looked I saw the same thing. Someone had cleaned the past. Hours later, back in the HAB module, I skimmed through archived files. That's when I found it. An appendix with no explanation. Cryo section, archive block. I didn't like either word. The cryo corridor was colder than the rest of the station. Whiter, quieter. The silence felt thick, like the walls didn't want to remember footsteps. Capsules stretched into the darkness. Rows and rows of them. The dates on their markings were ancient. It felt like a cemetery. Except death would have been kinder. One capsule had a live indicator. Test unit. Through the frosted glass, I saw the outline of a female humanoid. By protocol, I was allowed to initiate a test thaw. By instinct, I didn't want to touch the console. The system asked for confirmation in a voice as dry as paper. I pressed confirm. The glass cleared. The fluid trembled. The dome opened slowly, like it was afraid. She inhaled sharply and opened her eyes. Not panic, not confusion. Recognition. "You are warm," she rasped. I swallowed. Is that a compliment? Or a medical observation? Her lips twitched. Haven't decided. "What's your name?" she asked. "Lucas, engineer, not a kidnapper." "R." She stood, swayed, and I caught her. Skin on skin, warm against cold. That moment burned itself into me. Behind her, the other capsules disappeared into the ice, and I realized something terrifying. I didn't know how many lives could change with one button, and I had already pressed it. After R woke up, the station stopped pretending it was dead. Before, I only heard ventilation and my own footsteps. Now there was breathing, movement, presence. Emptiness backed away. I tried to focus on logs, on readings, on work. R didn't. She studied me instead. She'd appear beside me without warning, peering at panels like she understood them better than I did, and watching my face like the real interface was there. "You're making that expression again," she said. "What expression?" "The one that says you're about to fix the universe." I snorted. "I like that expression. If I were alone, I'd blame exhaustion." But she was real, warm, watching, and one thought kept clawing at me. One awakened woman in an empty station wasn't humane. The protocol gave me an excuse. I used it. Back in the cryo corridor, I activated another capsule. She woke slowly, carefully. "Hello," she said softly. "Lucas, engineer." "Leora." She was gentler, quieter. Then I activated the third. She woke like sleep had insulted her. Sat up, stood, stepped too close. "You're human," she said. "And tall." "Those often come together," I replied. "Cyan." The air changed. R tensed. Leora grew silent. I noticed everything after that. Who handed me tools first? Who stayed close? Who watched in silence? It felt like a strange game. Until I saw their faces when they thought I wasn't looking. For them, it wasn't a game. It was the first choice they'd had in centuries. That night I looked at the rows of capsules beneath the ice and felt something cold settle in my chest. 3 awakenings weren't mercy. They were a mistake waiting to grow. On the 3rd day, I opened the archive block. Imperial markings filled the hologram. Cold language, clean lines, and the truth unfolded. These women weren't stored. They were preserved. Not as people, as a warning. Their civilization had resisted expansion. They said no to an empire that didn't tolerate refusal, so they weren't destroyed. They were silenced, frozen between life and death, stripped of time, stripped of choice. I felt sick. This wasn't an archive. It was a prison. Leora closed her eyes. Cyan's anger went quiet, dense and dangerous. R stopped smiling, and guilt hit me. Not for waking them, but for waking only 3. Beneath my boots, thousands still slept. I stared at the cryo map. Endless rows, and clarity arrived like cold water. If I'd pressed one button, there was no halfway anymore. Either I walked away, or I woke all of them. I didn't sleep. 3 awakened women wasn't a rescue. It was cruelty dressed as kindness. I checked the systems again, ran the numbers again. It was possible. Hard, risky, but possible. Leora started preparing quietly. Cyan paced like a storm. R stood beside me, silent. "You've already decided," she said. She was right. Before launching the main sequence, I returned to the cryo corridor. I touched the glass and let myself feel anger. Then I went back to the console. "We do it in waves," I said. "No panic." R touched my elbow. I pressed confirm. Deep under the ice, the station began to hum. Orpheus 9 started waking up. And there was no stopping it now. The station filled with sound. Breathing, crying, laughter. Bodies remembered how to live. Capsules opened in waves. Some women cried immediately. Some sat in silence. Some laughed at the stars like they'd been waiting forever. 1,000 awakenings isn't a number. It's 1,000 lives restarting at once. Leora ran the med stations. Cyan controlled movement. R stayed with the lost ones. I managed systems. And slowly I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just an engineer anymore. I was a symbol. And symbols are heavy. Freedom had weight, and it was settling on me. When the shuttles were ready, no one demanded anything from me. No debts, no chains. Just quiet gratitude. One by one, the past left Orpheus 9. I could have gone too. Instead, I stood watching the stars. R stepped beside me. "You gave us a future," she said. "I'm choosing mine." I didn't answer. I stepped closer. The last shuttle disappeared into darkness. The station grew quiet again. Not empty. Alive. And for the first time, freedom wasn't something I gave. It was something we chose. And the galaxy was about to notice what we had awakened. The first capsule opened with a sound I felt in my teeth. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a soft hiss, like the station exhaling after centuries of holding its breath. The woman inside didn't scream. She didn't thrash. She simply sat there, eyes unfocused. Chest rising too fast, like someone waking from a nightmare that never quite ended. Then another capsule lit up. Then another. The corridor filled with the sounds of life returning. Coughing, sharp inhales, whispered words in a language that had waited too long to be spoken. Humidity spiked. Filters protested. The station, designed for silence, began to struggle with people. Leora and I moved on instinct. Thermal blankets, water, simple gestures. No speeches. No explanations yet. Panic feeds on words. Some women cried the moment their feet touched the floor. Some laughed, shaky and broken, just to hear themselves make noise. One knelt and pressed her palm to the metal like she didn't trust gravity to stay. I watched faces that had never expected to see another morning. And then I felt it. Not gratitude. Expectation. They looked at me like I was more than an engineer. Like pressing a button had turned me into something dangerous. A symbol. My hands shook as the second wave cued automatically, because I understood something then. This wasn't a rescue anymore. It was a revolution that had already started, and revolutions don't stay quiet for long. By the third wave, the station smelled different. Not metal. Not coolant. People. Bodies learning they were allowed to exist again. The corridor was full now. Clusters of women sitting shoulder to shoulder, sharing warmth, sharing silence, sharing the shock of time finally moving forward. I stayed at the console. Because if I stopped moving, I might stop breathing. They kept looking at me. Not worship, not fear. Something worse. Hope. Hope is heavy when you didn't ask to carry it. One woman grabbed my sleeve, not pleading, not demanding, just grounding herself. Like touching proof that this was real. Another whispered my name like it was something sacred. I wanted to disappear into a maintenance shaft and let the numbers be honest again. Aya stood beside me without a word. She didn't reassure me. She didn't praise me. She just stayed. And somehow that steadiness mattered more than every thankful look in the corridor. The rivalry between them changed then. No more testing. No more claiming space. Only fear, quiet, adult fear that once thousands more woke. They would stop being special. That I would stop seeing them. And that fear was human. The console chimed. Final wave ready. My finger hovered. Because once this finished, there would be no undoing it. No going back to just an engineer. And I was about to find out what happens when hope outpaces control. The last wave didn't announce itself. No alarms. No ceremony. Just green lights spreading across the map until there were too many to count. The cryo-block, once a perfect grid of obedience, became chaos. Living chaos. Laughter echoed down corridors that had never heard joy. Voices overlapped. Names were spoken for the first time in centuries. The prison couldn't pretend anymore. It was breathing too hard. I slid down the wall and sat on the floor, head back, hands numb. Not weak, just finished. Ire lowered herself beside me. No words. Her shoulder against mine reminded me I was still a person, not a switch someone else could flip. When I stood again, the map was stable. All green, all awake. I looked out across the station and realized the truth. I hadn't freed prisoners. I had created a people with a memory of injustice, and memory spreads faster than fear. Shuttles began preparing themselves automatically, responding to traffic requests I hadn't authorized. Signals were already leaving the system. Someone out there would notice. Someone powerful. I stared at the stars through the observation bay and understood. Orpheus 9 wasn't the end of the story. It was the moment the galaxy would start asking dangerous questions, and the next ones wouldn't be answered quietly. The first warship arrived without warning. No declaration. No hails, just a mass shadow tearing open space at the edge of the system. Air felt it before the sensors confirmed it. Her posture changed, subtle, instinctive. Predator awareness, the kind you don't unlearn. This ship, she said quietly, does not come to negotiate. The display resolved into a silhouette that made my stomach drop. Long, bladed, designed to intimidate at distance. Old Empire design, the kind that believed fear was governance. Then the signal came, not to me, to the station. A broadcast, wide, authoritative, absolute. This facility is in violation of containment law. Release of assets is punishable by eradication. Assets, not people. The women heard it too. The corridor went silent, not with panic, but with memory. Centuries of conditioning snapped back into place. Heads lowered, shoulders hunched. Survival instinct screaming, "Don't be seen." I saw it spreading and realized something terrifying. If I hesitated now, they would fold. So I did the least heroic thing possible. I told the truth. "They're not here to save you," I said, voice carrying. "They're here to erase the mistake." Eyes lifted. Not hopeful. Angry. "Good." I opened the channel. "This is Orpheus 9, I said. "You're late." A pause. Then laughter, filtered, mechanical, cruel. "You have released property," the voice replied. "Step aside and live." I looked at the map, at the women, at Ire, and chose no. The word felt small. The consequence didn't, because the Empire didn't come alone, and it never forgave defiance. The second signature appeared seconds later, then a third. The Empire didn't negotiate. It overwhelmed. Weapons charged across the enemy hulls. Enough firepower to glass the station in a single coordinated strike. Ire stared at the tactical overlay, jaw tight. "We cannot win a direct engagement." "I know," I said. I was already moving. The station had been designed as a prison, which meant redundancy, which meant systems no one bothered to update. I rerouted power through maintenance nodes, opened emergency broadcast channels, not military frequencies, civilian ones. Every shipping lane, every independent relay, every scavenger and trader within 5 jumps. I sent one message. They're alive. They were never cargo, and the Empire is here to kill the evidence. Air looked at me like she finally understood something dangerous about humans. "You're weaponizing witnesses." "I'm weaponizing truth," I said. "Same thing, different speed." The first shot fired, not at us, at an escape shuttle. The explosion was small, surgical. A warning. Something inside the station snapped. The women didn't scream. They stood, one by one, straight-backed, unafraid. A sound rose, not a chant, not a cry. Resolve. Sensors spiked. New mass shadows. Not fleets. Individuals. Freighters, escorts, old patrol craft. Civilian hulls with bad paint and worse weapons. They weren't here to fight an empire. They were here to be seen. The Empire commander cursed, audible, furious. Too many eyes now. Too much proof. Too much memory waking up at once. And the galaxy was about to learn why humans are dangerous in crowds. The Empire withdrew. Not in defeat. In calculation. Their ship slipped back into folded space, leaving silence and debris and a truth they could no longer bury. Orpheus 9 didn't cheer. We watched. Because survival doesn't celebrate until it's sure. Signals flooded in afterward, questions, offers, threats wrapped in diplomacy, promises from people who suddenly remembered the word rights. The women listened, then chose. They didn't ask me what to do. They asked what came next. I didn't have an answer. So I gave them something better. Options. Ships were claimed. Routes planned. Names reclaimed. Some left immediately. Some stayed. Some swore never to let a cage exist unchallenged again. Air stood beside me as the station emptied. Not abandoned, but transformed. A place of awakening, not silence. You changed the balance, she said. No, I replied. I broke a lock. She smiled at that, sharp, proud. As the last shuttle departed, I looked at the stars and understood the cost. The Empire would adapt. They always did. But so would we. And next time they wouldn't be facing prisoners. They'd be facing people who remembered who opened the door. Because once humanity teaches the galaxy how to resist, it never forgets who learned first.